What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the world according to Briggs. My name is Briggs, and I never remember to set my clocks back. I don't know what the deal is with that. I never do, even though they tell me the night before. Anyway, here's a question for you. Have you ever made a really bad decision? Most of us have. One of the worst bad decisions a person could make, besides using a double negative, is driving while under the influence. I know I did a couple times in high school, and it's not something I'm proud of. I'm just glad no one ever got hurt. I wised up around 19 and never did it again. Nobody ever really plans on driving while impaired. It normally happens like this. You meet your two roommates down at the Regal Beagle for a happy hour, which turns into 4 hours of happiness. You can't remember how many drinks you had, but you're fine. Besides, you only live a mile away. What's the worst that could happen? About halfway home, Deputy Barney Fife has pulled you over and tells you you're gonna have to blow. You say something smart like, "I'm not doing that to get out of this ticket. You can give me the ticket." Next thing you know, you're calling your landlord, Mr. Furley, to bail you out. It never goes well for anyone. The stats for driving under the influence or driving while intoxicated, whichever you prefer, have declined over the last 20 years or so in most cities in the US. Some cities sort of act like they didn't get the memo that this was a bad thing to be doing. And that's what we're going to be looking at today. The places where they're still doing a lot of drunk driving, driving under the influence, whichever. So why don't you sit on back, get a drink, and watch my top 10 worst cities for DUI in America. Number 10, Scottsdale, Arizona. Scottsdale is the 6th largest city in Arizona with about 250,000 residents. Scottsdale is sort of a tourist destination since it is in such close proximity to Phoenix. With the local casino and all the golf courses around Scottsdale, it's safe to assume that you'll be on the road with some poor decision makers. 3.4% of the people in Scottsdale have driven drunk and now have that on their record. To give you an idea how bad this is, the national average is 17%. Be safe while in Scottsdale. If you decide to drive while impaired in some manner, make sure you got a good lawyer. They have ads on all the bus stops around Scottsdale. Number 9, Rio Rancho, New Mexico. Rio Rancho is a smaller suburb of Albuquerque with just under 100,000 residents. While the city is pretty safe as far as crime rate goes, they only have like 1 in every 44 residents being affected by a crime, which is really low. And if you know anything about Albuquerque, that's freaking amazing. They have areas in Albuquerque that the criminals don't even feel safe. Now, their drunk driving stats in Rio Rancho is a different story. The drunk driving rate is so much higher, with about 3.5% of the residents have a DUI on their record. They have a strange amount of people that have run into buildings. You know those big things people live in and do business in and stuff like that never move and they don't jump into streets? People keep running into them here. This place is like an ad for Farmers Insurance. They've seen some things. Number 8, Fayetteville, Arkansas. Fayetteville in Arkansas, not to be confused with the second largest city in North Carolina, also called Fayetteville. The one in North Carolina has 200,000 residents. Fayetteville, Arkansas has a population of about 85,000 residents. Of these residents, about 3.6% have been arrested for DUI because they got behind the wheel after having too many drinks or other substances. I can say a lot of good things about Fayetteville, Arkansas. They're really a good city that's, getting better all the time. And for Arkansas, that's amazing. They're a city that's growing economically, home ownership is rising, and the crime isn't crazy. They have crime, but it's not terribly bad. Well, that is until you factor in the DUI stats, then they got bad crime. Number 7, Longmont, Colorado. When you think of Colorado, you think of driving under the influence of cannabis since it's one of the first states to legalize recreational marijuana. I've been to Denver a bunch of times. They have a lot of really good beer too, not just the cannabis. The cannabis dudes are easy to spot in traffic. They normally have a few bumper stickers with some political message on them. When you drive up next to them, if you look at them, they'll wave. They always do. They don't mind the traffic. If you yell something to them from your car to their car, they always laugh. And then they say, "What?" And then they laugh some more. Why did you laugh if you didn't know what I said? That always bugs me. Anyway, Longmont is one of the worst cities for safe driving. When in the city, you have to be extra cautious since about 3.7% of the population has a DUI from alcohol. Number 6, Chula Vista, California. Chula Vista is a city in California close to the Mexican border. It's in between San Diego and the border. It's really close. Maybe it's the college in the city or Mexico that drives up the increasing number of drunk drivers. Either way, Chula Vista has an incredibly high rate of drunk drivers. Within the city of about 271,000 residents, about 3.85% of them have had a DUI before. One lady was arrested for DUI. When the police searched her vehicle, they found 12 of those wine in a pouch empty inside the car. She drank all of them, 12 of them, they figure. What they need to do is they need to put a straw in those things like the Capri Suns. That way, when you can't get the straw in that little hole, you shouldn't drive. Technically, I had kids that used to drink those all the time, and I think even without drinking, I had a hard time putting them in. So that's a really good indicator. Number 5, Shawnee, Kansas. So it is in Kansas, and what else you gonna do in Kansas but drink? Now those are the words of a local Shawnee resident I know. Well, knew. Anyway, I'll explain that later. Shawnee is a small town of about 65,000 residents just outside of Kansas City. Almost 4% of the city's population has a drunk while driving on their record. That isn't a good number for such a nice town. I was in Shawnee 5 months ago when I did that Amtrak video. Anyway, I stopped by to see one of my oldest subscribers. His name was Mac, and he had been around since my gaming days on this channel. Yes, that's how this channel started. I was a gamer. Well, a very bad one. But anyway, moving on. Mac passed away 3 weeks ago. It was the asbestos thing, that whole mesothelioma stuff. It was horrible. Anyway, I think he moved back to Wisconsin right before he passed. Anyway, I've been thinking about making a video about that one, but Shawnee is a really nice place with it's just a really nice town, and it's too bad that this is such a bad stat for them. But yeah, 4% of the population has a drunk driving charge on their record. Number 4, Sparks, Nevada. Sparks is located right next to Reno with just over 100,000 residents currently. 4.5% of those residents has a DUI on their record. That's about 152 or something percent higher than the national average. It's way higher than the national average. Sparks was founded in 1904 and incorporated less than a year later in 1905. In 2010, the U.S. Census Bureau population count for Sparks was 90,000, and now it's estimated to have over 100,000. So the city's growing. It's the 5th most populous city in Nevada. It shouldn't be a big shock to anyone that a place with gambling and tourists have drunk driving. They just kind of go hand in hand. You get pulled over, you try and bribe the cop with a $10 casino chip and a coupon to the buffet. Next thing you know, you're in jail. Number 3, Billings, Montana. Billings is the largest city in Montana with about 110,000 residents. This means the biggest part of the state is at risk for a population decrease because of all the drunk driving. About 4.7% of the city's adults have had a DUI, sometimes multiple. Billings is a pretty dangerous place when it comes to driving around, especially since in some of the areas the speed limit is 85 miles an hour. This is the type of place that when you get arrested and you go to court, there's a good chance your lawyer's showing up in cowboy boots. Billings was nicknamed the Magic City because of its rapid growth from its founding as a railroad town in March of 1882. The city is named after Frederick H. Billings, a former president of Northern Pacific Railroad. So another railroad town springing up in the middle of nowhere. Well, at the time it was nowhere, now it's someplace. Anyway, moving on. Recently I've noticed a bunch of tech companies are moving to the Billings area, which I find strange, in the middle of nowhere. But anyway, they're getting tech companies in there, and that's not good for the drunk driving stat, or just driving stats. Computer nerds are notoriously bad drivers. Number 2, Orange, California. Orange is located in Southern California near Anaheim and Disneyland. There's gridlock traffic in this area always. You have a ton of tourists who don't know their way around, which makes this area incredibly more dangerous to be drinking and driving. I mean, they just step out into traffic. You gotta remember, not every country has crosswalks. Some of them just bolt out in the middle of the street. It is weird around there. Too many years living in Southern California and driving around there was horrible. I've always hated the traffic out this way. Orange has about 140,000 residents and 4.7% of them have DUIs on their records. I wonder how many Disney employees have DUIs. Could you imagine the dude that plays Goofy has 3 DUIs and he is in real life more a mess than the character he actually plays? And number 1, Cheyenne, Wyoming. Cheyenne has a very small population of only 63,000 residents. That's sort of strange considering it's also the state capital. It's not a lot of people for a state capital. Anyway, there's not a lot of people in Wyoming, so I guess it fits. Among these residents, nearly 6% have had a DUI. That's like 270 something higher than the national average. That's crazy. That is a serious jump there. The second worst has less than 5%. It's like their happy hour involves a keg of beer. each. If you move to Cheyenne, make sure you get a life insurance and a homeowner's insurance quote, because it's just a matter of time before you and or your house gets run over by a big truck with a gun rack. The guy's got a keg of beer sitting in the front seat with a seat belt on it, a pair of sunglasses so the cop thinks he's carpooling. That's how they do it in Wyoming. All right, so that's my top 10 worst cities for DUIs. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you got some information, especially out of this one. It's really not a joking manner, but, you know, I just thought I'd give you the stats so you can see what you're up against if you happen to go there, drive through there, or whatever. Some of these places, they're doing their own thing. Don't forget all the links below. Give the video a big thumbs up. Leave me a comment. Buy a t-shirt. Subscribe if you haven't. Everybody have a great day. Be nice to each other.